we have to identify like-minded people, people who are already there, people who already believe in our goals and our objectives. Then after that, we can start, inviting other people in. But first, we have to establish ourselves some type of identity so that people can know what we stand for. But we have to put the structure together. And then once we do that, then you can allow other people to join in. You can expand. But we have to get a movement or some type of group or organization or institution that's clearly defined.
I agree. I agree. This is actually the brother. I think we are that organization. Like I mentioned, I am from the Igbos states, and it's been a United States of Africa project for a long time. So we have continental Africans that can support and are ready to support. These brothers are from region. In my system is region 8, which is Florida and the Caribbean. Then there's region 10, which is the Mississippi Delta, where we've been having the whole United States of Africa and Republic of New Africa system. So we have people in the South. We've been reaching out to the North for a long time. I don't know, brother Daryl, if you have anybody in up north that you could call on for these meetings with the Detroit. I know brother Starrett. I don't know if you know Muda Baruka.
Well, he kept trying to help me time out. So I told him about that 4 times. He realized, okay,
Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna do this.
Well, I know Muda Baruka has some contacts in Philadelphia and
And
in
then
that
once he
area
realized, oh,
where
okay,
maybe we could
I'm
call
not
on
running
him.
on,
And
and she
the
let me out.
I think Jamaicans in
So
that
I went
area
to
are
my
active
house.
or
He started,
interested in working together as far as
he
Marcus
started
Garvey and
to
United States of
put
Africa.
two and two together
So we
like
might
all
be able to get
but
Jamaicans
they do.
and
And they
the Eastern Nigerians. They've been talking about the Sahel issue as far as the central region and Philadelphia or Pennsylvania.
what?
I think we get Jamaica and the Eastern Nigerians, the Igbos, to support the Sahel Alliance. So that's my comment.
And then some. And some. And some. Who's that?
Well, we just got to get the people who agree with those goals and objectives
Respect our leader.
to have them
They want to
officially
see everybody watching
sign on
the
to it,
trailer was going
either
on.
verbally or on paper, so we can know that they for sure that they're in line with what we're trying to promote. And not only their support, but what are they going to contribute to actualizing these goals? So we need everybody to contribute. So we need to know what type of
I
skill
told you
set
not to
they're
stop me. I
bringing.
didn't
Are
stop.
they engineers?
If
Do
you
they know
stand here, you stand
medicine?
here, and they was
Do they
like,
know political
I'm like, come on,
science?
don't get it.
Do they know
No, I was like, hold my hand.
health
So I kept doing this to him, spinning
science?
around,
Are they
spinning
computer
around. I
engineers?
know they was
We need to
spinning
know what skill set
I
each
just
group is
kept doing it
bringing to
real
the
quick.
table,
And I said,
so that
I'm
we can
leaning
know
on
how to
this and
coordinate our
right
actions.
on this floor that was meditate. Okay. Come here. Because they got
I
confused. They
agree.
get confused because
That's
they like, okay, she been
then that would
dishing out
require a
discipline all day.
secretary and somebody who
I
has.
know she about to get it.
Well, one of the things
I have it
I've
sitting right
been
back and they was
insisting on
meditating.
would be the next step for. But I know you haven't been in the
And
meetings, but
then
I've been
Jalen,
saying that we need
he kept
stock
like,
market
here's
classes
I
um,
really don't have no family
just to
today.
finance
It's you
ourselves
doing.
to have
I said,
meetings
don't take
like
your time.
this.
No,
Um,
it wasn't
I'm saying even
me.
in my situation, I can write things
Whatever
down and
happened, I'm
document
seeing
things,
safe.
but at the same time, I have 10
No,
hours work.
no, no.
So if you're talking about working with
All right,
governments,
Mr.
uh, at some point, you have to be financially independent,
You just happy
even if
that
you have
she
the
came
willpower.
back and it
So
ain't.
I'm not asking for
Hey,
a salary, but I am saying
just
that if we
imagine
have
money
the
without
stock
no nigga.
market system in place where we have kids or adults and we all sharing that information on how to make money on a regular schedule, that frees up people who are willing to contribute. Because you could have, matter of fact, I go to work and I hear people talking about this. So it's not that people aren't willing. It's like literally we're working. Like everybody knows about this at this point. Everybody's it's in everybody's heart that this should happen, but it's finance. Like, so it's not a lack of people who are willing to contribute, but it's literally we go to work every day and then we have to do. We just have to, after that, if we can minimize the time it takes to make money, which I've been saying stock market for years, and I know that there are people in the Mississippi Delta area that do the stock market, and it's the blackest region in the USA. It's going to spread real fast. That's my thing. Time and money has to be. We have to make money faster and get off these jobs. That's my next step. I've talked about it for years, but I think it's possible now. But I see the average person supports this, so and that's my observation. Just working, being a working day person.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. And one of the things that needs to happen too, because persons hearing about the movements all the while and looking at what is happening. But you see, when they don't see something tangible, like the movements being able to assist them or assist others in ways and means in going forward.
Okay.
That is something. So the organization within itself needs to begins doing things within the regions. So as whether it want to be farming, it is supporting going forward, processing, but you set up industries, begins making money, work, that show that the organization is able to attract monetary type a production, our product going forward, projects going forward as we go forward. So we need to have those as our own. We need to have our own economic base then, basically, so that person can say, yeah, man. See them have the school where we can go in our own school. We have produce our own things, so we have our own shop where we go to buy whatsoever at whatsoever cost. So we have to have things like those going.
hmm Well, I think the only way I see the economics coming as far as the finance, because everybody's has the agriculture, and we got people that go to school to talk about agriculture and science and robotics, but they never have the finance together. So my thing is the thing that's popular right now. People are betting and doing all sorts of things to make money. Just get a group of people, sit down, find out how much it takes to have a computer class to raise the finance with just learn the thing of stock options. I know Dr. Boyce teaches this. It's something that's gone viral already as well. Stock options. So we just need a group of people to learn how to do that and raise the finances. It's a lot of people saying that they want, oh, we need to feed ourselves. We need to do, Ibrahim Traore is making tomato plants. He's doing this and that, but he has goals. We don't have goals in America that we can access, or we're not going to get a donation from a big old bank or Ibrahim Traore to start doing, crops in Jamaica or in the Detroit or something. It's going to be lots of red tape and lots of sabotage if we try to just go straight into agriculture. So we have to finance ourselves to a certain degree. Uh,
That is true. That is true.
and I think we could do it with black people are putting themselves out in the USA, across the USA, saying they know how to make money with computers. Uh, and I think that's the space that they could fill as black people in America, teaching people the stock market. I know we have some of them here in Jacksonville. It's just that you as a someone who supports the United States of the Sahel or the United States of Africa, you have to oversee it. Like some of these teachers, they don't share the same ideology, so maybe you have to learn the skill yourself, or you and your people have to learn the skill and make sure you can take over the class and keep the ideology the same. Because someone can teach you how to make money, but if they don't have the same ideology, they could, as soon as you turn your back, they could poison the class. So you have to monitor the people who are teaching the skill. If it's an electronic way to make money, you have to monitor people who are teaching your class and take over as soon as possible. But
Yeah,
finance,
well,
yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with you. And if we are able to set up that so person like myself can learn to manage the stock market here, then yes, I'll look into, because I've been looking into it for some time, but not having the means and ways and the personnel to go at it. So
Hmm.
if we are able to get that in place so that myself and maybe a few more persons here would
Yeah,
go into it and then begin making
that's
it work.
that's why it was so important in the past conversations to nail down headquarters. For example, if it was St. Kitts and Nevis was talking about farming for years, but they never got us a class on the island where we could teach the kids how to raise finance, and then they would have had the finance to go out there and go into the agricultural field without having to ask anybody. You know,
Yes, yeah.
you never want to beg or ask somebody.
Yeah, that is it. That is it. Because you see, one other thing, is if you have something going, persons will be willing to maybe fund it or something. Because this
Mhm.
is what is happening right across the world. But I'm talking about here in Jamaica, where persons at times get funding to do something and they use the money for different things. And then defeat the program which is being put in place. Now you want to make sure the person you funding really is somebody who definitely want to be a part of that program. Otherwise, we can't just take funds and just put it in a people and make them waste it. So, even if you don't have something to give to person, we have to be careful in how that is being done.
Okay, so I'm saying if we talk to the Mississippi Delta, the stock market group, we should have a Jamaica African and Jamaica Maroon class, different villages and parishes. We should have different classes with the people who want to take the class and have them sign on the principles as far as this how you're going to be incorporated in the United States of Africa. You're going to be working with this village or this kingdom. Ouagadougou is a kingdom. The capital of Burkina Faso is a kingdom where you can meet the king just like you meet the maroon colonel. And so it's the same concept in Jamaica as far as the structure. So it's the same thing. Like we started in Jamaica, we'll be starting in Ouagadougou, starting in different parts across Africa. So Jamaica is a key place. We could do the same thing in Haiti. So that's why Trump is changing the laws right now as we speak on certain Caribbean countries where they're saying he's using the visa and the excuse to say that there's not going to be any travel. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now.
Because being part of an organization known as the Lion Pong Maroon here in Jamaica. I don't know if you hear about that with L.A. Lewis. Do you know that name?
Excuse me, hey.
I'm sorry, I don't know about L.A. Lewis.
Uh-huh. No, what I see that they are doing, they are looking at getting birth live birth certificate instead of birth registration. Where the colonial system used that birth registration paper to barter with other government and money agency and for the country and so forth. But they are trying to bring that norms in where you have live birth certificate, a change of IDs and such like. Is that something that you folks are looking at doing? Or is something that you want to implement?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
All right, what I see they do they are at this moment, they're trying to change out the birth registration. Because in our country, we have birth registration form certificate. We don't have live birth registration certificate. Like how maybe in America as and other places as. So what we have is something that we becomes a part of a corporation, every individual, by the birth registration form that we have here. The Nike Pong Maroon now is changing out those type of papers and so forth. And looking to ID, do different IDs from the government ID here and also, and it's showing how sovereignty of a people. That is what they are doing and so forth. So I don't know if you have You have known anything about that, or if you know anything about what is taking place there.
I would say that with the Sahel people,
Hmm.
um, the if you let's take the Mali Empire as far as families,
Yeah,
just like a lot of West Africans from Senegal, Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, that whole coast, in all the way into Mali and Burkina Faso,
yeah,
even into some parts of Nigeria, they have the same families where they
yeah,
if you say Jamaica, we have some, like, we've been marrying each other for 400 years. This is our family tree. We want an ID system with your kingdoms in the Mali Empire. The Sahel Alliance
yeah,
could do that. So if you just present it as this is our family tree system, we want to work with you to create an ID system. We know you're the Mali Empire, and let's meet your kings. If you
yeah,
present it as a family tree and you ask for the kings, they'll understand it. Say you want a royal ID system, and you want to meet the
yeah,
kings. So that whole Sahel alliance is mostly in West Africa right now, but they'll understand what you're talking about and just write it up.
yeah.
But and then it kind of gets messed up in Nigeria because some of the kings were killed 200 years ago. That's why
Hmm.
Nigeria hasn't joined. Uh, the Hausa, specifically the Hausa kings, if you know who the Hausa people are. The kings were killed in Nigeria, but a lot of the Hausa are running Niger Republic, so that's why they joined. So it's been a tribal issue why some of the leaders in Nigeria hasn't joined, but it's the same people. So we're trying to break through with Eastern Nigeria, where I'm from. But if
Yeah.
if you say royal ID system, and it's we know in Jamaica we've heard that the Chinese run things, even though it's 99% black. They'll understand what you're talking about. They want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, man, that is what is happening because majority of business now it been taken over by Chinese, and of late when you look, you have to say African man I run a business. Little after you see a China man buy out that piece of place there and a China place a go up and them thing. It is not something that we want to see happen, but it is because of the persons who are ruling the country at the moment. You know, they have allowed that to take place, and majority of our people now not seeing anything too tangible happening. Just give up in a sense. Now a Pan African person like me can't take that the type of giving up. But don't having the means and whatsoever to make the difference at the moment. We're just bidding our time and seeing how best we can work with other brothers and sisters to
Okay.
get it happening. Yeah. So that is really what we are looking at doing. Because even at this moment, me I tell some persons say anytime the next general election come up in my country here, I will go up even as an independent representative within my constituency. Just to show a person that here, man, we can do it differently from the established system which is there. So these are some of the things sometimes you have to just take them step there. Even though you know the established system is still stronger than you might not be able to win, but sometimes you have to start something to make persons see something differently. So we are looking at doing all of that because we're going to put every fight we can or every effort we can in what we're thinking and what we want to see happen.
I'm thinking the Sahel Alliance. Well, my thing with I like the Sahel Alliance because it's 80 million people, and I usually don't use the term Pan Africanism, but it's 80 million people who saying they stand for Africa. So it's a platform. If you want to speak an idea and you think it's good for Africans worldwide, not only locally but worldwide, if you think it's a good idea and you support the United States of Africa, then you bring it to them. So my thing, I don't really support. I support, with the let's say you talk about any sort of meeting you have, it's going to have a voting system. So if we meet as in, let's say,
Yeah,
the United States
yeah.
of Africa, which is connected to the Sahel, the Jamaica branches, it's going to be a voting system, and it's going to be political power as far as, hey, we know Jamaica has a royal defense force. We know it's
Mm-hmm.
99% black. Why not? Let's sign these deals together. Or you're talking to Burkina Faso. But when you
Yeah,
when you say your fight is with this political party and that one that nobody knows about, it's only in Jamaica or it's only in Nigeria. It's the same thing. Like
mhm.
you could talk for 500 years about a political party, and nobody outside your country will ever know what it is or how it relates to Africa because it's only
Yeah, yeah.
specific to your country. With the Sahel
You see,
Alliance,
one of
yeah.
the thing that happen, you know. Yeah, one of the thing that happens is that what I do know is that we won't be able to make any significant changes there in Jamaica as Africans until we has some form of power in parliament, because that is where sometimes you make your
Mhm.
changes. Now you have that leeway, you can now begin making the change on behalf of what
Mhm.
happens within your country. The other thing with me, as a Gaviite, I say a Pan African, but I am a Gaviite and an African
Mhm.
foremost in my mind. The soil, Burkina Faso, Niger,
Mhm.
Mali, those are countries that like what is happening there. And I try my best to establish with amongst persons what they are doing, show
Mhm.
person that we need to come together and support these
Mhm.
countries as best as we can. And any movements that will get a united Africa happening, that is what
Mhm.
I am supporting.
Okay, I
I will
think
put wholeheartedly that is what I am supporting.
okay. We're going to because there is a call with more Caribbean people. We've had it before. And with the population of Haiti and Haitians in Cuba, in Dominican Republic and Haiti is like 75% of the Caribbean black population. Probably it's like 70%. Then you add Barbados and Jamaica, we have probably 80% of the Caribbean represented. Or as far as a potentially spreading a message, we might have 80% of the Caribbean. As far as just Barbados, Jamaica, and Haiti. So, and then Grenada, which we know we was invaded when they tried an African village system of government, and they tried something like Troy, and they tried to get Africanized. The USA invaded them. But I know we all know that the USA has power over certain countries, especially the Caribbean, British too, and then they're not part of the parliament. So it's we work together, we can have international influence. Where it's like sometimes it's who you know. Like if we say we have 80 million people, or Nigeria, we have people from a 200 million strong country, and we have the Sahel Alliance that's 300 million people, and we're coming to Jamaica with one voice. It's gonna have an effect. It's gonna have an effect. A lot of politicians, or they'll email you or they'll respond back, but then you have to follow through. We picked out 4 headquarters in the Caribbean, so we can be consistent with when we show up. So we can't say we're coming to Jamaica and we visit every 3 years because we're hopping around the islands. And that's what some of the Igbo leaders have been doing. They've been hopping around different islands. But we picked 4 headquarters: Jamaica, Haiti, Barbados, and Grenada. That's like 80% of the Caribbean black population, if you count Cuba and Dominican Republic, Haitians. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be
You
consistent.
remember the other day, I was saying to you that the Chinaman, when they are out here and if they are going to perform a marriage, it is in their own culture they marry, and they are defended by their embassy and their country. Now we want
Mhm.
something like that here for us Jamaican. You might
Mhm.
have a Nigerian embassy here and so forth, but then we don't have them saying, well, all right, we defend these people as our own and they are a part of us. And whatsoever the culture is, it is what they are
Mhm.
able to do and work through. So we need to really push as much of a culture in those ways. Having,
Culture.
like how you have the soil state them now,
Mhm.
having that black state saying, well, all right, whoever as African out in the diaspora want to be a part of us, yes, we will now acknowledge you and let the government of the country that you are in know that our culture is the culture that these set of people will be going by and live. And we need those type of platform
I'm
on
trying
the
to
world.
I'm trying to write it down because one thing that's been happening, my elders, I'm like in my 30s, but my elders in the 50s, they argue too much. But they have, everybody knows Jamaica will often say Akan of Ghana and Igbo of Nigeria are the major people who were dropped off in Jamaica. So that, even today, there's Igbo and I think Ghanaians immigrants in Jamaica. So I would say if the Sahel doesn't have that presence in Jamaica, I know the Igbos of Nigeria and Biafra do. So they have to sign a deal to support the Sahel states and support Jamaicans and support the Maroons. I think we have the numbers to do it. I know that I've seen contacts in Jamaica that can meet face to face, but I wanted to make sure that USA is on the call and know that it's not the Caribbean moving separately from Black America. You guys all have to be on one page. That's the only way it will work. And Michigan has been the most consistent in the whole Midwest United States. Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. I would want to know that all black is moving together and see. We're moving as a black, a combined unit. But one of the things that you still need to do, you see, if you find even one country where the government of that country willing to agree and work with, yeah, work that one, because from that one begins happening, others will see it across the region and other places and want to be a part of it.
Yeah,
So sometimes if you go for everything, they might just hold back. So if you find one strong enough and ready for work, work with that one. Don't wait.
You mean the Caribbean countries or Africa countries?
Whether it want be the diaspora, whether it want be the Caribbean or American country or any one of the other countries,
Oh,
Brazil, anywhere.
no,
Anywhere that you see is strong and willing and you can begin
we
that
have
type
four.
of thing.
We have four. We
Just
have
begin.
four. But we know that what happened when Maurice Bishop, he said we don't need democracy. Let's go village assemblies. Let's copy Tanzania and Ujamaa, which is a Kwanzaa principle. He was using Kwanzaa to organize black people, and the U.S. government invaded, and everybody forgot about him. So we have to be on one page. I think we are. We have Grenada. We have Jamaica now. We have Barbados, Haitians working together. So we have the Caribbean. We have four at one time. So this was just the USA, basically Northeast USA call. And this is Brother Dennis Boatwright. I know Brother Dennis, you scheduled Pan-African calls, but I think if we could have a consistent call on the regional, the DMV and the Midwest working together, that would be more powerful because the people know about the Sahel Alliance. It's just who are the regional leaders, or who. That's what it is. I know we have somebody in Florida, Mwalimu Amsada, which I'm willing to work with him. He's in a different city, maybe an hour away, but I'm willing to work with him if you guys are coordinating up north and it's not too much in Jacksonville, because I know what goes on in Jacksonville. Everything gets politicized, and if you guys,
Yes, but
yeah,
let me ask you this. Where is that strong organization or that that does speak on behalf of the diaspora people? Where's that strong? Like you would have, say, for instance, the Black Panther, which is there in America, who has stand up within their time in the past when they were that strong in the past.
brother, this
That's
is
fine.
why we called you in Jamaica, because it was the
Yeah, yeah,
UNIA, the Caribbean countries.
no, the UNIA, hold on. The
Yeah,
UNIA is not what it used to be when in the 20s coming up, when Marcus Garvey was there. The UNIA now is fragmented and power hungry people there using it just on their own behalf. That's not there anymore.
exactly.
Even the Maroons here are fragmented and working individually amongst themselves, not coming together, combining. The Rastafari movements, which should have been strong as a movement, there's not that unity there either. So being in Jamaica, I can tell you the thing because I've been to many Rasta houses and I just walk away because I tell them, say, until you not decide to work on behalf of the development of us as a people together. You can have many different denomination of Rastafari, but you need to combine your strength as one. You need to come together as one and work to one common goal. Now we need some form of organization to defend diaspora people that way. And as I said to you, if we don't get something happening like when Marcus Garvey was running the UNIA and it reached that just there, we are going to be defeated same way because there's not that thing where persons now will see and galvanize towards. Persons want to see something like that happening. And people, because that carry tangibility with it, you know. Than as you say earlier on, we just get up and attack. Because talk now cut the thing no more, you know. Action now cut the thing.
Mm,
Action. So
Uh,
yes, we can sit down and reason and put the plans them together. But we need to make sure something practical is happening.
with the Caribbean call, I'm going to make sure that everybody reads the documents and the African calls because people, just so we don't repeat ourselves, because people can look at people could go to back in the WhatsApp group and look at what the name of the title is. And it's been going on for years, but people don't even read the title of the group. But, this is the UNIA based out of Africa, based out of Sahel. So we know about the history of Marcus Garvey. And we're reaching out to the diaspora saying we have a Marcus Garvey movement in Africa. We need the diaspora to come on board. We need Jamaica. We need Haiti. We need Barbados. We need Grenada. And this was the USA call. But I think Brother Dennis has mentioned that he has a Midwest Alliance. If we can work with the Midwest Alliance, I have people in Jacksonville, Florida, and the Caribbean and Africa who are ready to come on board with the Midwest Alliance. And we have the chairman of the New Black Panther Party in the Mississippi, St. Louis and Memphis, New Orleans, uh, I think Jackson, Mississippi, Texas. They've had recent activity. So this it's a multiple. He has probably the biggest network in his area in Texas and the Mississippi Delta. I have Jacksonville, Florida, and the Caribbean, and different parts of Africa. Uh, so we're looking at the Midwest. In the Midwest, we need the Midwest. It's not a small region. You get the Midwest, you get New York, you get DC. Um, so is it? I don't know, Brother Dennis, if you're available to speak on that, as far as your support, where you're at, or where we would be starting.
Uh,
Because
well,
I also want to
we
mention
have considerable momentum as well as support, but most of the things we don't talk publicly. We have to deal. We talk about these things when we have secure communications, but we have a lot of things. But I agree with the brother that was just talking from Jamaica. We have a lot of groups out here, but we have to talk to each other because a lot of the groups are not really for who they say they are. And even here in Detroit, you have a lot of groups. I'm not going to say their name, but they do absolutely no coordination with each other. Each group is trying to protect the territory of their own organizations, and they're not with the spirit of Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey, even though they say they represent this. A lot of them are egotistical. A lot of them are want to be in charge of the whole operation or initiative that we're agreeing. And when they can't be in control of the initiative, they don't want to be a part of it. They won't support it. So I agree with the people. There's a lot of groups out here. So I was going to ask you, when you say we have these different people, what do you mean we have? Have they said that they are a part of it, or just only verbally? But what have they done physically and tangibly, as the word the brother used, in order to work towards this goal? Because we there's a lot of people that I done had meetings where there's hundreds of people in there, but only about 4 or 5 were sincere. That was really thinking like Marcus Garvey, who was really thinking like Malcolm X, Nat Turner, uh, Milcar Cabral, Patrice Lumumba. There's groups out here with these good fancy names. And in fact, I'm the keynote speaker in Detroit for the UNIA next month, July the 20th. They want me to be the keynote speaker and talk about the Alliance of Sahel states. But I really don't go to a lot of meetings because I see people, I don't see the sincerity there. I see that people have these groups and they're not trying to forge unity amongst us in its true sense. They argue real quickly. They can't agree upon a conference, a Pan African conference or a Pan African Congress. But I like the initiative that you're talking about. However, I need to see clearly, in a nutshell, what are we trying to do? What is our overall objectives? And there's very limited things I can say about finance. We have many things. The Center for Pan African Studies is financing. But and how do we do that? We do a lot in African sovereign bonds that are out there that are outperforming other currencies of the world, double that of the U.S. Treasury notes and U.S. Bonds. So we have things, but we can't talk about this stuff, especially about the
I understand.
financing.
I understand.
So, so we have a lot of things that's going on, but we're here to grow. We open, and I like what you're doing, brother. You're taking a good initiative. But if we want to learn from the state, from the Republic of New Africa, the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, all of them, we have to ask each other critical questions. Because if we don't, we're gonna end up fizzle out or getting killed or being imprisoned before we can get anything done. So everything has to be right because our oppressor are not playing. They're listening in on us. They planting informants. They putting agent provocateurs amongst us. As we see how Israel is doing Tehran, how it's easy for them to knock off their leadership. Very easy because they got the intel. These are things that we need before we even can move forward because we can build up all of these great things and have the momentum, but we have that one link, that one weak link, which may be not vetting people properly because we're eager to expand and grow and grow. And I am, but you have to be careful because it was people who was close to Malcolm X that got him killed. And this is Malcolm X first closest confidant who told me in person maybe 3 weeks ago when I was in DC. He said people who was close to Malcolm X that was amongst them that killed him. The same way with Patrice Lumumba and Milcar Cabral. It's people close to them. So we got to be careful and we have to move with caution because this is serious. If we're trying to change the world, if we're trying to do what the Alliance of Sahel state doing across Africa, throughout the Caribbean, and throughout the diaspora in general, we have to be careful and we have to be thinking on a higher level. Other than that, if we don't, they're going to pick us off. No matter how good our intentions are, no matter how much money we have, if we don't do this right, we're going to be put back and shot back to the beginning to where we started. So we had to just all I'm saying is I'm not trying to promote negative vibes. I'm in 100%. This is my lifestyle. I got a wife and kids. I have my own company where I don't have to work. But I'm saying this to say, if we're gonna do this, let's do this right, and we gotta vet each other. And people who is on this phone at some point, if we can, we gotta meet each other in person so that we can feel each other's vibe. Because I don't go by what people say, I go by what their soul is telling me when I'm sitting right there in front of them. And that's an African way of doing things because we can say anything. We can read dictionaries, we can read books, peer-reviewed journals, etc. But what is our soul saying when we're sitting there? And many of times, I'm somewhat of what you call an empath. I sometimes can get a feeling if you real like Marcus Garvey, is you real like Malcolm X, are you real like Fred Hampton or Mark Clark or Ibrahim Traore? Some people have that ability. So I like to meet people in person. That's why I drive.
No, that one, that one.
Uh-oh, brother Daryl.
Birthday to you.
Looks like he got a
Happy
birthday party.
birthday
Brother
to
Daryl?
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy
Brother, mute the mic.
birthday
Ask him to mute his mic, please.
I don't know, can a host mute the mic? But I don't know if you can hear me. I'm not mad at the brother. That's good. He had a birthday party. But that's what these are things that we have to think about.
I agree, brother
Now close
Dennis,
your
and
eyes.
Look at that.
I
Look
salute
at
what
Look
you're
at
doing.
Marcus Garvey. And
Then blow
yeah,
out again.
lastly,
Close your
because
eyes.
I got some people, lastly,
Think
the
about it. And blow
Marcus
out
Garvey was undermined by people who were formerly members of the UNIA. They would come in and testify against him as though they never knew him. So that's why I say we have to move with caution. And a lot of times we have these grand ideals, and I commend that, but we have to start off with small steps. And firstly, we have to identify who we are as a group clearly within a sentence or two. And one paragraph should explain exactly what we're for. And then after that, if people agree upon that, if you agree on unity, and if you agree on Pan-Africanism in terms of what that actually means, the way that Garvey understood it, if you agree those two things, we can work together. If you can't, I can't work with them. I'm not going to waste my time. Because like Malcolm X said, I got some paperwork with Malcolm X said, he said those are the two things. He said, you have to have unity and you have to have Pan-Africanism. He said, other than that, he said, I'm not wasting my time. And unfortunately, he died 2 years later. I got the actual letter that Malcolm X was going to publish in the Black Lash, which was the newspaper. I mean, the newsletter that he was publishing. It had like 7 issues, and he died 2 days before he could publish that. So what we're saying is we have to identify like-minded people we don't have to explain ourselves. And then after that, we put literature in to attract and welcome other people. But right now, we have to identify the right people because we don't have time to be hitting speed bumps, have to explain ourselves every other day, every other meeting. We have to have these side meetings to address some type of controversy or a difference of opinion. Let's find out who on the same page as us in this group, and then we move on. Other than that, we're going to waste our time. And I'm saying this through experience. I'm actually 55 years old, even though I got kids that are 4 years old, 7 and 9 years old. I'm 55. And I experienced that, and I seen how divisions and how different groups fizzle out and break up, because in the beginning they don't clearly define themselves. They just letting people join without vetting them, without asking them tough questions, without monitoring them, without putting up an intel organization to find out who people really are. And that's one of the challenges we have to do. Is not the ideology. We got all the Marcus Garvey books, Malcolm X, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, everybody. We have the literature, but the problem is we don't have the intel to see who's who. We don't know. And we have to figure that out, because if we don't, we're going to keep losing people. We're
I
going to
want
lose.
I agree, and I want to respond because I want first I can identify myself. I'm name is Confidence Okeke. I'm raised from the Mbaise clan, California. Basically, we're a clan from Nigeria, eastern region of Nigeria, but we're registered in the USA in different clan associations. We have a little federation of clans, and my family, can be contacted. But we have we have a small federation in West Africa um, that's indigenous, and we're part of the Nigerian Federation, which is basically next to the Sahel Federation. But I've also invited people from the Unify Igbos Now movements and a brother Okechukwu Okoro he's on. But we have Igbo states with our own. We have our own states and autonomous communities and registration forms, where we could absorb the Jamaicans and the Cubans and the black people in the different villages of the Caribbean. We could create ID systems. That's something that Jamaicans are working on right now, and we have that in Nigeria as well, and in the Nigerian diaspora or Biafran diaspora. So we have those ID systems in place. But the thing that I've learned about the UNIA was that it had laws on marriage, so it was a family system. It was something you had to ID who these people were, and eventually marry each other and know who is who. As far as it's a family system, we could put that into a paragraph and explain it. But that stops a lot of fake activism. When a lot of people don't even read the UNIA Constitution. I have a modified version which I put online, but it talks about who you can marry and having a chaplain, a priest available. So we have invited a traditional African priest, but it's a family system. So how would you get infiltrated? Or if people, a lot of people don't even read the Constitution, but they accept that people are calling themselves this organization and that organization. It's a family system. We see it's spread in the Sahel. The Hausa people, the Mande people, the Mole Dogbone State, which extends into Ivory Coast and Ghana and different places like that. If we keep going as we're going to be able to call family meetings in Africa with millions of people. A lot of them have festivals where 1 million people will show up because they're all families. So that's what Marcus Garvey, who was born 200 or 100 years ago, he saw some of that still in the Caribbean, and we still have that in Africa. So we're coming together as a family, and that comes with background checks. And I know they're trying to do that in Jamaica with different ID systems. The brother mentioned that, but that's the spirit of where we're coming from. This is a royal family. We have a capital in Ouagadougou with a king and a strong tradition, and we have a leader in Ibrahim Traore. We have the Mali Empire right next door. We have the Hausa empires that we're trying to rebuild, and we had ethnic killings 200 years ago that we're trying to deal with, but we're trying to rebuild those families and those godfathers and royal fathers in the diaspora in the Caribbean. It's a family system, and I'm just putting that on the record. So there's no way you can infiltrate this group, and that's why.
No man,
Yeah.
no man. That can't happen same way, man. If we don't keep tab of what is happening, people will. We can't just say it can't happen. We have to be vigilant because you
Sure.
have persons who will just come in, show like they are with you, do things with you in the beginning, only for maybe a year down the road or so forth. Everything just gone haywire because they have gotten enough information to feed their masters now, or for their masters to work on.
Well, let me put
So
it
we
like
have to still be vigilant.
now. Let me put it like this: since you live in Jamaica and they have all these UNIA groups, has anybody ever told you that it's a organization based on marriage and you can only marry black people? Or has anybody ever mentioned marriage as a requirement for joining the
No,
UNIA?
no.
Exactly. They're telling it's like some sort of a philosophy group or Marcus Garvey
Yes.
history club. It's a whole society. It's a royal society. You can't. And Marcus Garvey's son, for the record, he married a white woman, so he's banned. He's not even allowed in by the Constitution. So it's a lot of people don't even read the Constitution. They don't discuss it. They just say they're the UNIA and they start traveling around the world lying to people. It's a marriage society. Malcolm X came from his parents met in the UNIA. So it was that atmosphere where you're here to marry somebody and build a new African society, and so that comes with. It's a whole marriage society. That's what That's you see things like pop the balloon and people trying to figure out how to marry themselves. Still popular in the USA. So it's that spirit of, hey, we meet each other, we save money by working together as a family, and we're African. So it's not. You never saw Marcus Garvey talking about himself for hours and years, saying he's the UNIA.
No.
That was not what the UNIA is.
Marriage was offered to me, I would say, twice. And I told the person them that if it is not an African type marriage, it won't happen. You'll never ever get me married in a one of these colonial type marriage and these churches. Never. So that is what I am talking about. Because, for instance, we need to keep ourselves authentically black, African. Why want for cross? No, we don't have no time for that. And as the brother didn't say, we need to make sure that the system that start take out majority of our leaders, as you see, is happening worldwide. Because it is there, and we see it happen more and more, every day. Say them not stop, them find different ways and means to get at us. So we need to be careful how we go about what we're going about. For me tell persons already say, well, me dedicate, the rest of my life to getting the African race recognized and unified. Because at 65, me not really even live with no one at the moment, because majority of the time a woman I tell me say, why you love this and you love, me say no, me not love it more than you. But it's true, you don't love yourself, that's why you say that. If you love yourself, you love what I am doing. So at the moment, I have girlfriends and so forth, but I don't live with a woman per se. Because majority of the time, most of them is telling me that may I walk away from.
African lifestyle.
Yes. And if you're not coming as African lifestyle, African queen and princess,
Exactly.
you see, you have a lot of them portray some things, even some women in the Rasta movements. And down the line, are the same colonial system. I mean, I say, watch out now, this a confuse me. Because how we start out is a far different thing you approach now. That's why we live for 3-4 years. You start to show your true colors.
Hmm.
Had you been educated from the beginning about your culture, then you would have been on the page. And that is why earlier on, when you hear we were talking, I was said to you that we need to have schools, from basic school going on right up. Start some creech and basic school and begins spreading the information. Use the social media and print media and electronic media like how them use it and brainwash a lot of us. Use it now to re-educate our people by doing some little poems, some little skits, some little cartoon possible, which will be able to educate and edify.
I agree. I know that there's I invited the brothers from that live in Igbo land because they have the Unify Igbos Now movement. They have 5 states at least in Nigeria to promote the United States of Africa again. And they've been promoting culture, and I've seen that there's not any organization trying to connect the Caribbean except maybe it's some Unify Igbos Now. I think they're more open to the United States of Africa, and they're not trying to put politics or delay it. So I invited them. So I think a step forward, because the brother Dennis, I think he has the best regional network as far as the DMV, New York, Pennsylvania, tri-state, uh, and then the Midwest. I think he has the best network. I think the best thing for me to do is contact, the Africa network, get them to sign on board. Like, well, let's put pen to paper, sign documents, and then we circle back. We go to the Caribbean and Florida. We circle back, and then we eventually work our way back to the Mississippi Delta and brother Dennis and his network. We have our own connections in the Sahel, but the brother Dennis, he has a strong. He's based in Detroit, in the Midwest USA. So I think the best thing might be just to stay in contact, but circle back with different calls, regional calls. So this was supposed to be Region 9. There's a Region 1 through 5 call, a Region 8 call, and the Memphis or Mississippi Delta area. We could have a call there, and we just start putting out documents as far as agreements and figure out how to get the finance going because it's always going to stop at finance. You know, I have to go to work. We all have to go to work somehow. But he has his own things about finance too, as he mentioned. But we'll keep the calls going. I don't know, brother. Okay, Chukwu hasn't spoken. It's been an hour, so I don't know. I don't know if he's still there or it's late, or if anybody has anything to say.
I'm in a public space. I'm in a public space. I can't speak now. I'm just listening. Once I get to a much quiet place, I will speak.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, man. One thing what happened now is, as you say, the stock market ways of earning. If we
Hmm.
could begin teaching, getting a platform where persons begin learning how to do that. Persons like
Exactly.
myself.
Exactly. Okay. And
Yeah.
and I think that would be good. I'm writing it down. To-do list. So from the meeting to
Mm-hmm.
do, Jamaica stock market, and that might even stock market classes teach.
Yeah.
And we just have to.
And, and it also come down to persons learning to use some of these AI tools to,
Because what it will
The,
happen is that because once we stop, because let's say I work 60 hours now, maybe making the money more money in 1 hour or 10 hours or something. So as the time gets reduced and you make more money now, you can reach more people, you can travel more, or you can it's more free time. So now that message will spread faster, and as you start investing in things, your money starts speaking for you. Like I said, I got it from this African society. That's
yes,
called the
yes, yes.
UNIA, the Uganda Nigeria Imperial
But,
Administration.
but
We got
yeah,
it from this
because as
society.
I speak about earlier on, what if I have capital and able to use as how I want to?
Yeah,
I will look at in that preach basic school of my own because it is something that I tell myself as soon as some money come my way, I look to open one of that.
yeah. I've already seen people trying to teach or actually teaching cultural classes connected to Burkina Faso.
Yeah,
They had the DNA and the Burkina Faso connection before the Sahel Alliance even was created. But
but I will also now have to set the curriculum that I want the teachers to teach.
uh-huh.
So I will have to get the African type languages and cultures to teach in those schools because that is what I'm going to teach mainly. I don't say I won't be teaching English, but I will
Mm,
be teaching language of African language. I will be teaching African cultures. So that means that the youth them come in and again those type of knowledge. I
mm-hmm.
also will be having a feeding program where the farmers out here are from my farm. I will be feeding the youths. That is how me look to set up my thing. The other thing
Exactly.
also is making sure that maybe every 3 months at least children get a medical checkup. So these are how I look at setting a Creech basic school system in place and how I would make sure it work. That is what I
Exactly.
want.
Exactly.
So
And the thing is, this is going to be consistent because it's not just reggae. It's like anything that touch Jamaica will spread to the smaller, from parish to parish to smaller islands. Like we tried to start in St. Kitts, Nevis, but no, I think maybe it's more. It has to start in maybe St. Anne's or something. you know,
yes,
or,
it
have
is
to,
it,
then it'll
similar way.
spread to a smaller parish or a smaller country. I think that's
Yeah,
how it should be done.
it's similar way. Yeah, man. That is what I was saying to you earlier. don't wait that we get the whole region together. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you try to get the region together and it no work out, but you can get one country or one parish to make something happen and people begins to seeing it and
Mhm.
what is being done. Then you can use that now as an example for persons
As
to
a model, and
utilize
it spreads like a virus
and it's
or
yes.
model. Yeah. So that's what
So
we.
we need
Yeah.
that model to happen. So let us see where we can begin that model work from. Yeah.
Okay. I like the brother. Okay, Chukwu. He's a traditionalist and a cultural man, and it is a spiritual thing to hear from. Igbo land is the origin of with a transatlantic diaspora. There's 200 million people, and also 350 million people from the Bantu. South Africa, Zimbabwe. So to speak with him and to start speaking consistently, that's like 500, 600 million people connected to Igbo land in Africa and the diaspora. So it's like 600 million people. It's not a small thing. So we appreciate Brother Oke Chukwu tuning in. It's probably 12 midnight where he's at. But I don't know. We could close the call, and I think I just like his spirit. But consistently having people in Igbo land on call. And I think we could start soon in Jamaica, having an Africa call and having the Caribbean calls more consistently, and then moving to USA. But I think I also wanted to mention Jacksonville, Florida. Uh, I think the Caribbean should take responsibility for this whole city because we have a Barbados connection in this region of the USA. Jacksonville, Florida, just the biggest city in that Gullah Geechee region. So it's Florida all the way to North Carolina. There's a Barbados connection, Bahamas connection. There's a loose history of black people trying to escape to Haiti in this city. So there's Caribbean heritage and immigrants coming in from the Caribbean. Jamaica has Igbo people and activists in Jamaica. So there's nothing stopping us. We just have to be consistent with the calls now and I'm putting some things to paper that will help us move forward. And I just hope in the future the USA brothers they pick up again. So that'll be it. If we set up the paperwork in the Africa and the Caribbean next time, we could just present it to them, like because they brought up things like what do we stand for. We could look at the documents and say this is what we are. Uh, you know, but at this point, if we start in Africa and the Caribbean and it'll spread across the USA because it's already gone viral. I hear people talking about it every day at work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the thing that happened, is some of the literature which are there already, like how you tell me about the UNI constitution and so forth.
no, I have
I
we,
don't
we
know
have our
if
own.
you send out that to us now. We'll be able to use it because that is my way. I
Okay,
always try to edify persons of the things that I know. So I will
okay.
always show persons that, yeah, man, this is what Marcus Garvey stand for. Because once every month at least, I am in sentence right in the era where he born.
Mhm. You
I,
can.
I go, I attend a meeting there of some farmers,
Mhm.
which is registered as a benevolent society. No, I need to sometimes, because we talk out to them about Marcus and so forth at times. So sometimes when we have all these information, we can start spread it to the person them and say,
Mhm.
watch a man, this is where our
Okay.
provision leader had stand for. And
I,
this is how we think we need to do it.
yeah, I think I'm very excited because we got Evil Land in Jamaica. I've tried this for 7 years and we never been this. It wasn't possible 7 years ago, but now we see people are coming out and the right people are coming out. So the next thing would be, and this is how the Japanese Revolution happened. They started in the village, so I think the next call should be the African communities, the continental communities. Like a lot of people
Mhm.
don't know Sudan is there. They've had a
Yeah.
UNIA even before what happened in Sudan. They tried to push for the ancient Kushite Kemetic education. They call it secular education, but they're the traditional people who are pushed out of Egypt, and I guess now they're saying the Arab League and the Arab Emirates are fighting them. The Arab kings are fighting them. They say, and they say they're suing genocide. So it's like they try. The Sahel Alliance is saying the same thing, that they're trying to bring back the African culture. So it's East to West Africa. We're seeing the same thing. Uh, Different races saying that we trying to eliminate us and our culture. So, that's to say that Jamaica to be on the call with Africa. I think that'd be a next step, or we just have an Africa call consistently, and then a Caribbean call with Florida, and then there's the Midwest, or we call it the Great Lakes region, and the Mississippi Delta. So I think basically to say, I'm saying if the Caribbean and Africa have calls and they absorb Florida, it'll be very easy because there's two regions in USA left. If you absorb Florida, there's only two regions in the USA as far as creating a African association and family association, and that's all we're doing, creating an African family association. But thing is, African families have gold and diamonds and under their feet, and they have this spirituality where you can.
It is why I said to
So
you some
that's
time ago
why
that
they attack the family.
we need to begin trading and investing in some of
Mhm.
these things in Africa.
Mhm.
And if not, because I wouldn't be sitting, if I am sitting and say,
Mhm.
say the equivalent to US,
Mhm.
say 3 million US,
Mhm.
you can bet your dollar say I will be using at least 1.5 of that money
Mhm.
to invest somewhere in Africa. Because
Okay.
that is always the thing that I have been saying to person. Me even talk to some musician at times in the past. So why when you can put on a concert, when you sing about Africa and this and that and so forth as Rasta and so. Why we don't put on a concert and the money from this concert will go into investing within Africa, developing up whichever country, but also helping to develop us here because it will be bringing forward revenue too.
Mhm.
Something that we're looking at because maybe we would have begins doing schools, we would begins doing whatsoever type of trading within our country also, and the funding from these would be going towards that. Nobody no seems to want to take it on. Every man just want to sit back so and tell himself say him is a musician and him have so much dollars and so. But
Yeah.
you can't put on a concert towards helping the African diaspora
Mhm.
and the African continent. We don't see it.
This is the well, the next step will be, I think, the Africa call, and it's been like maybe 5 months. I don't know, since the beginning of the year we've been asked. I think we had one or two calls for Africa. Just trying to get everybody in the diaspora to support. But the Sahel, from if you go from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali Empire, right? You go to Nigeria and Chad, it's some of the similar people, similar cultures, and same languages and same families in Nigeria and Chad and Sudan. So then you got
How,
South.
how
You
do
got
you check out? How do you check out the family? Eh?
yeah. Once you get
How
Sudan,
do you check out the
yeah,
family tree? How do
yeah.
you check out the family tree?
Well, just to continue speaking about that region, that the family tree that stretches from Nigeria and Niger to Chad and Sudan, they call it the Kanem Bornu, and also
Mm-hmm.
the Songhai Jerma people empires. So once you get to Sudan, that's Ethiopia right next door, and it's also how would you say, it's Ethiopia and Egypt. So it's only two countries over from Nigeria. So it's the
Okay.
same
Okay.
people. That's the Sahel. And
Okay.
that's why people every day you'll see in the USA laws getting changed because the people that run the country here they're anti-black. But Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
means black, Niger means black, Sudan means black, South Sudan means black. It's just we've been dealing with this issue for hundreds, thousands of years, and now
Yeah.
everything's coming to a head. It's coming out in the news. They've been
Yeah.
so it's not the English didn't invent race war and race fighting. It's been happening in Africa for a long time. So, but another thing, the autonomous communities of Igbo land and Chad. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's a autonomous, it's specifically called autonomous community, where it's been on
Mm-hmm.
papers that these communities should be able to develop and partner with people for their own development because it's hard. It's very rural, hard to reach by the central government. So they just said, here, file for autonomous communities. We'll give you a stipend. We'll give your chiefs a stipend. Uh, Reach out to your whoever your partner is. But nobody ever had had the mind to say, let me reach out to. Well, let me say, some kingdoms have reached out to Jamaica and the Caribbean, and they're doing that now. But that's to say this is an autonomous communities league that spreads from the Sahel and to the Caribbean and the Bantu people. It's only starting to get popular, but
Yeah,
it's been on the books that we can do that autonomous
I get
community.
what you say, but you see, I know that I think it's even Corey, those Maroons there with Chief Corey. I
Mhm.
think Chief had reach out to those Maroon and so forth. But one I think that is happening, they are not working in a unified way where even if they get some farmer assistance monetary wise, it reach out in unifying. And
Exactly.
that is something that need to be looked at. And if it is not serving its purpose, it stop.
It's all over Africa. The same thing in Africa. So
Yeah.
we have that. The Sahel Alliance is an attempt to change that. So even the Sahel Alliance or Burkina Faso or Mali, they have village meetings or cultural meetings where they call all the chiefs together and say, "This is the agenda. Stop the fighting. Stop the bickering." So
Yeah.
now it's saying, "Hell, you're in not only the Maroons, but if you're any village, I don't know the village names. Or I know
Mm-hmm.
some of the parishes, but you
Yeah.
have if you have a neighborhood, let's say the Jamaican Neighborhoods League, and you talk
Yeah.
about Africa, you talk it's just I don't we don't know the neighborhoods, but if you talk about local community leagues, we
Yeah.
not you don't have to be a parish or just a neighborhood. Attend people, say you're doing something, a picnic or anything, you just register with Africa communities, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a league. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
grandiose. Anything you do in Jamaica, basically, to improve the people, and you have a network, village to village, or neighborhood, or even yard to yard. It's a
Yeah.
community league. Even they call it the captured lands. Anything you're doing
Mm-hmm.
in Jamaica is a league, and then you work with
Yeah.
African leagues, it'll be bigger.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. Well, in the past, I have formed farming organization, which we did register as cooperative. And I am a part of a benevolent society, which is a farming team at the moment, a part of it. I am one of the
exactly.
on the supervisory board, but until we see things is happening in a positive way before I reach out. I don't like to reach out without knowing that whatsoever comes, it will work for the benefit and the development of what we want to have.
I pledge to send some cash to. I know they're having their meeting right now. The
Jackie, that
Charleston,
is
yeah,
Jacqueline.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'll start looking at my savings and sending something that makes a difference. But we can I don't know if we want to close out the forum. The brother Okechukwu he's in a public place.
yes.
Well,
He
well,
won't be speaking until he reach somewhere. Yes,
yeah.
he's in a. Yeah, man,
So
we can close it. But as I say, let us see how best now we can start getting the stock market part of it going and other ways and means for persons to earn,
mhm.
so that it can give us some more independence of movement.
Exactly, and that if
Yeah.
even if I'll say it like this. At one point, it was. I hope it's not going to take this long. But well, let me put it like this: I feel if there's an agreement that hey,
Mm-hmm.
move forward, because you're the first person. This is years. You're the first person to say let's move forward with the stock market in the West. And so I'm
Yeah.
assuming you could start with yourself and a few other people that you trust. And the Maroons could
Mm-hmm.
maybe the Maroons. I don't know their computer capacity. We still,
Yeah.
but if they're held accountable by Maroons and non-Maroons, and it's different villages, that's going to spread across the world because it's going to spread to Africa. The villages, the same village system and neighborhood
Yeah.
system. It's going to be rural. You're all going to have the same ideas as far as farming, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can work on the USA how they come in because they don't have land, but they might have the computer systems, and they might have like stocks and bonds for different countries, and they might have
Yeah.
the roads developed where they could travel, or they might have the U.S. Virgin Islands even. I mean, there's different things. U.S. Virgin Islands has a seat in U.S. government permanent
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's different things that the USA could do that might not be farming.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
man, it don't have to be farming. It can be any other thing
yeah, but
we're looking at.
but Africa and the Caribbean have the land, and it's they're on one page of benevolent societies, town halls, associations, councils, all the same
Yeah,
thing.
because yeah, thing, you see, when we talk about even persons getting assistance from chiefs or kings in Africa once we come together, my way of looking at it, is that we come together, and if we could even say within ourselves as an organization, we come together and we say, well, all right, yeah, what? So we can put together 10,000 US, yeah, from here in Jamaica. Then we just say Jamaica, and even say 10 we come together and we put 10,000 US together. We call upon a chief who would have, or a king who would have possibly give us some assistance if we want assistance, and say, you what now? We have 10,000 US. How can we invest this in any projects, or whether it be diamond, gold, whichever? But how do we invest this in some minerals or support so that this can begin generating funds coming back to us, and we're not just waiting for you to send to us? Because sometimes I want to see things happen that way where people put in some of them own capital so they know so them are going to really do a work to make the thing happen, and I just sit down and say, well, we can do anything with this, man, and when it's done we can get some more.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with even with the Garvey system and the Africa system. The translation to what Africa has is might be the benevolent association, but it
Mm-hmm.
maybe over there it's the association chairman is the king, or
Yeah.
he was elected the chairman, and they have a golden stool and all that. But that's what a benevolent society is. It's you need to develop this piece of land here, and there's the land over there with this minerals and this, and you all come together. So they've been doing that thousands of years. So it's way bigger in Africa, but these are benevolent associations. You call it a village, you call it, but they have meetings, they have development associations registered all over Africa.
Yeah.
So so if you started in St. Catherine's and this is, I don't know anything but the parish name. So if you have a neighborhood association, right?
Yeah. I'm in
Basically,
St. Catherine, Pachoma. I'm in St. Catherine,
yeah.
Pachoma.
If you let's say St. Catherine's associations, you have 10 of them or 100 of them or however, block to block or house to house, you have associations, right?
Yes.
So let's say St. Catherine's associations, or maybe there's 100. They talk to Burkina Faso, and you say you want to work with the government. They're going to say we have this department, Bogu. These are the kings. You can meet them. This is the mineral resources. But eventually, you're going to run into a traditional leader, and they're going to tell you who's the leader of here. If you meet the people on ground, they're going to have a village, and they're going to have a development association usually. So I
Yeah.
know, yeah. We have Burkina Faso and Nigerians who have their own states, and they're
Mm-hmm.
the same empire.
Yeah.
They don't talk to each other months, but it's the same system basically. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Borgu Empire is the one I'm talking about. They're in Nigeria. They're also in Benin and Burkina Faso. So that's what the
Yeah,
West is looking at. Hey, these people are all related.
yeah, yeah.
It can spread.
You see, my thing is always to find that common goal and that common cause that will bring that unity amongst persons, you know. We know you will always have this and that out there, but you have to try and find something commonly to hold us together. So that we
Exactly.
don't have a fight. We don't have to give up we culture our way, you know.
But
But we
this,
have something that binds us together, keep us because you over there, so me over here, so sometimes me don't even have to come on your side for certain things or whatsoever. But maybe you have something when I want and me have some you have something when I want and we just barter, we exchange in whichever way.
yeah. So, but this is the thing that is one thing about the Sahel Alliance is that these people are risking their lives, saying that there's a region of Africa that's one people, the Sahel.
Yes,
And if you Google Sahel, it's not only West Africa; it's a strip of land east to West Africa.
yes,
Some people call it the Sudan or Balad al Sudan or Kush, ancient Kemetic people, east to West
yes.
Africa, Niger to Nile. So they know they're related, but now it's just how do we put it in a way that's politically correct? Because
Yeah. So what I say, you say
how do
at
we
the
get
moment,
support? Because a lot of people say they love saying Africa is 50 countries and they could
mm-hmm.
go to this one and find the corrupt leader there, and go to this one and find get a citizenship here. But the people, that's not an indigenous citizenship. It's something that was created, in Berlin
You see,
Conference.
just like what you say happening in Burkina Faso and Mali, the soil state that is coming together now. You see, when you begins doing things like that, where people can look at tangible things, or you will have the support, no care where the persons are, because
Mm.
everyone want to have something, you know, and like to be provided for. You know.
Mhm.
And when you find out your leader corrupt and not providing those, but when you look and see that happen over there, so, and you know, so
Okay.
but we don't have we don't have the same kind of things here, so man. We have minerals, we have resources here we can make we live like how them people they are live.
Oh,
Younger person go get up and say, watch, I wanna stay here so with this, you know. Until you put that thing like that in place. We not work with that, you know. And
mhm.
these type of ways and means now we make person galvanize towards the man over there. And you see how easy that unity they are gonna build? Because
Mhm.
even though a different tribe in between, but we all have something happening tangible and we can start barter with each other. So we are gonna say, well, all right, see, we are get comfortable here. Me have something, my fellow man over there, so have something, my neighbor have something. So you know, if you envy your neighbor and grudge your neighbor, you just barter with him because you have something can give him and get some away him have. And type of thing that will cut down some of the differences, you know.
Oh, I think
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree with the barter system. The brother I was expecting to speak, he dropped. I don't know.
Yeah, I said go.
It's all
I said
good.
go.
Um, yeah, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So basically this is a forum for trying to get people in USA involved. But
Okay.
Florida is very connected to the Caribbean, and I'm gonna talk to people. Okay, greetings, brother. Okay, Chukwu and brother Pumphrey. This is
Yes,
confidence
sir.
in Jacksonville. Greetings, brother Paul.
Yes, how are you?
Greetings, greetings, brother.
Greetings. We're talking about the United States of Africa. We had a brother Dennis boat ride on earlier in the Midwest, and we're talking about Ohio and Pennsylvania and the DMV connecting. And he gave some suggestions, but you weren't there. I would have liked to have you guys both there. This was a snap call, but we have the Igbos states that Nnamdi Ezekwe helped set up as far as the United States of Africa. We're trying to bridge the gap, and we have Jamaica, the villages there, and we know you have Haitian connections, so we're seeing how can we get all these villages and states together. We have this is the Midwest and the DMV, basically the Great Lakes region working together. But you're the only one in that region at this point. But we have Africa and the Caribbean, Florida, Mississippi Delta ready to work, and we're looking at the Great Lakes in the DMV. And you were one of the people we wanted to reach out to see what's going on in Philadelphia and DC, and see how we could bridge the gap, because we had brother Boatwright, and he's in Michigan, which is like two
Yeah, I'm
states
familiar
over.
with Dennis. I know Dennis well.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I know.
Dennis and I
Yeah,
know each other.
I've observed that there hasn't been a lot of support from Pennsylvania, but I think that Ohio, they have a statewide Kwanzaa network, and they have the Panthers, and that I trust, or that I think are doing good work in Ohio. I think Ohio and Detroit can make a strong movement, and I think the brother Boatwright has that network. But I think Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York need to step up. Even though I can't see what everybody's doing, but if we had a Pennsylvania network that could cross over to the DMV and cross over to Ohio and Michigan, that would be nice. That's
Well,
what that's what as far as
what is
yeah
the program at this point?
the as far as the United States of Africa and supporting the Sahel. Uh, we have other states in Africa that want to participate. We were trying to
No,
get
my
a
question would be, for example, how would you look at supporting the Sahel?
well. Basically, the way I'm starting off is because I know basically having roots in West Africa, in the Igbo land, the eastern region, we have autonomous communities. So basically, we have a level of sovereignty in West Africa where we can
I
promote.
understand, but I'm asking specifically, how would you go about supporting it? What are you bringing to the table is my question. Because one of the things I find very often is that we're over here with a lot of the technology, yet we're not taking advantage of learning that technology where we can then take that information to West Africa and help West Africa be in a position where it can process its own resources instead of shipping its raw material out of West Africa. Let me give you a good example. Last year, cocoa sold for a price of about $47,800 for 22 tons. But whoever bought that 22 tons, if they made it into premium chocolate, they would generate $2.3 million. That's like a vacuum cleaner sucking the wealth out of Africa. Now, we're over here where we can learn how to make premium chocolate. But I find too often we're not seeking to try to find that information, how to do that. We're over here where we can learn how to roast and blend coffee. But I find that we're not really focusing on doing that. And yet, United States, Europe, nor Canada can grow cocoa or coffee. And they're making hundreds of billions of dollars off of those crops coming out of West Africa, coming out of East Africa, coming out of Central Africa, such as cocoa, coffee, just those two alone. And the beautiful thing about chocolate is everything you need to make your chocolate grows in the same location that the cocoa does. The raw sugar, the coconuts, the almonds, the passion fruits, the mangoes, you name it. It's all grown in the same area. So you don't even have to leave the country to get everything you need to make the chocolate. Yet these countries have been selling their raw cocoa to Europe, Canada, and United States and allowing them put on the added value. And that's one of the reasons why Africa economically stays behind the rest of Europe. It's not because they don't have the resources. It's that they don't process their own resources. They pretty much give away their natural resources to Europe, United States, Canada, Australia, and China, and they're the ones who process it. It's just like when you look at Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso used to have its gold mines organized and run by France. And by doing that, they sold their gold dust to France, rather than being in a position where they could set up a refinery to refine their gold dust. Because if they had done that, like they're doing now, just taking the gold dust and making it into a gold bar increases the value of that same amount of gold by 7 times. And so we're over here where that technology is. We need to focus on learning that technology, and when we go to West Africa, take that knowledge with us and share that knowledge so that they can take their resources, their natural resources, whether it be by plants or what's in the ground, and process it so that they get the added value. And once they get the added value, you're shifting the wealth from going to Europe, from going to the United States, from going to Canada, and keeping it right there in Africa. And that's how Africa pulls itself up by its bootstraps. And we can play that role because we're here where we can learn the technology. You understand what I'm saying?
I agree. I agree.
I'll give you an example. I'm a part owner of a chocolate company, a very small chocolate company, but we make premium chocolate. My partners are from the Dominican Republic and Panama. We got our cocoa in the Dominican Republic, and we make our premium chocolate there. Great Britain did a survey of over 600 chocolate companies around the world. Do you know where we came in on that survey? Number 2. 2 out of 600. That means we beat 598 companies in how to make premium chocolate. We sell a 80% cocoa bar, or candy bar, chocolate candy bar, 80% cocoa, $15. Okay? And people were coming to buy 10 candy bars at a time because they liked our chocolate. So I'm saying, if we take advantage of learning the things that come out of West Africa, that is processed here in the United States, so that we can teach West Africa how to process their own resources, we could do more to help the economy of Africa than just about any other way, that we can help them. That's the best way we can help them. And these are the kind of ways that we need to be thinking. It's what do we need to do? What advantage we can take off of the fact that we live here? Because you're seeing Trump making it next to impossible for Africans or Caribbeans to come to the United States anymore. But we who were born here, we can do that. And when we learn that information, then when we go to West Africa, we take that with us. Because if we can do that, we will. Because again, when you look at the chocolate industry generating well over hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's being generated in West Africa rather than in Europe, rather than in the United States, rather than in Canada, then that changes the paradigm.
I agree.
And that's a serious way of how we can do our part in helping Africa
Can I say something?
to move forward.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Hello, can I say something here?
Yeah,
please?
brother. Yes, brother.
Please,
Okay,
go ahead.
I really appreciate you for all the things you've said. But I'm truly happy about what you just said just now concerning Africa and America. Black Americans, those who are there within America, coming down to Africa to give us this technology and to teach us But there is this problem that we have failed to recognize here. I don't know if my broader confidence have actually been able to tabulate those problems. Down here in West Africa, we're having a problem of leadership. These Caucasians, I don't know whatever they're called, they continue to insist that only their pawns are the ones who gets into the political offices, ensuring that nothing ever works down here. No factories
Understand?
work. If you establish factories, independent factories, to begin to convert these raw materials to finished goods, they will either kill it by imposing excessive taxes or unnecessary levies and all that, just to make sure they frustrate you. They
I
are,
agree. I
Brother,
understand
they,
that.
they are
I wanted to say something, just an introduction. Brother Chukwu is part of the Igbo states, which have 50 million people, just like Native Americans have states, and Black America has been trying to get on those lands. We have 50 million people on massive. We can do massive business, but Brother Chukwu, do you know what part of cocoa is cocoa is grown in Nigeria? It's not in the eastern region.
yes,
It's an
exactly.
Igbo.
Yes.
Igbo goes Coco.
Yeah.
You think the Igbo grow
Igbo, now we
cocoa?
grow cocoa.
I know they do.
In my own line, I do grow cocoa.
Okay, I didn't know that
I
because
got cocoa trees within my
okay,
own
I didn't know
farmland. We
that.
do grow cocoa. But there are these problems that I keep that we keep having, that the people in the position of political positions, they continue to make sure that nothing indigenous works, and
I agree with your point.
that's what
My
makes the
brother,
eastern
I
part
agree with your
of
point.
Nigeria
I agree with
to
your point
continue
when
to
when you're talking about Nigeria and places like that. But I also
yeah,
understand that there's been a change in West Africa when you look at places like Burkina Faso, when you look at places like
exactly,
Mali, when you look at places
exactly.
like Niger. And my point is, so if you got the governments that don't act like the government of Nigeria, okay,
Okay.
and you do those projects in those countries, believe me, Nigerians will see the difference and demand their government to change. And if they don't change, they will kick their government out of power. But you have to say, my point is now you got Burkina Faso, for example, to set the example and setting the example. It set the example with gold. It outlawed the idea of selling raw gold out of Burkina Faso. They said if you want to sell your gold, you sell it to the government, and the government has a refinery which now refines the gold. That's part of what allowed Burkina Faso to be in a position where it paid off its international debt. You know, this is one of the
Bu-
reasons why Burkina Faso
Burkina
now
Faso,
is becoming
Burkina
very
Faso,
popular throughout West Africa because people are seeing that they're solving problems that their country is not solving. And that puts pressure on their country
there is,
government to either change
there
or
is
get
a
out
huge
the way.
difference.
So I
There is
agree
a
with you, my
huge
brother.
difference between Burkina Faso. There is a huge difference between Burkina Faso and Nigeria.
I agree.
Burkina Faso is one. Burkina Faso is one people. Nigeria is over 250 ethnic nationalities jammed up together, of which there are three major ethnic nationalities: the Igbo, the Yoruba, and the Hausas, who are over 40 to 50 million, are the spearheaders of other ethnic nationalities. So, along these ethnic nationalities, there are what will I call it now? This there are misunderstanding. There are misunderstanding implanted by these Caucasians. You get it? So the only way what you are talking about is going to work perfectly well within Nigeria is a total disintegration of that entity. Burkina Faso is just one people and one small population.
Actually,
wait,
Let them
Burkina
brother,
let
wait,
Faso
them
wait,
has
wait,
do
wait,
several
wait,
different.
wait, wait, wait. I wanted to interject
Burkina
because
Faso has several different ethnic groups in it as well. They're
no,
not as
I,
populated as Nigeria, but they have
no
more than one ethnic
population of
group.
no,
Burkina
no.
Faso,
Oh, I want to.
population of Burkina Faso compared to
Wait.
Nigeria.
Okay,
Nigeria is
Chuku.
the
Okay,
largest
Chuku.
population
Wait.
of the nation of
Okay,
Africa.
Chuku. Wait, because I called the meeting. I had the information. What had happened? What Burkina Faso is doing was based on what's happened in Nigeria, based on what we've been talking about for years in WhatsApp. Nigeria started copying what we had in America, the Black Panthers, regional security based on self determination.
Okay.
But because people weren't on one page, people kept leaving the meetings and not paying attention. Yoruba land made the security and the self determination groups, as far as tribal governments and security, they made it a political issue. It was supposed to go down with African Americans talk and Caribbean talking to the indigenous communities and setting up security. So what happened was they have a Yoruba security, they had a Igbo government security, and then they had a Biafra regional fighting the security, saying that the government was killing the Biafran people. But Burkina Faso has the majority group called Masi people. Mali has the Mande people as a majority, and northern Nigeria has the Hausa people, but their kings have been killed. And then Niger Republic, which is right above northern Nigeria, has has the House of People, but their kings weren't killed. So northern Nigeria is the Sahel Alliance. What happened in Nigeria in 1804 was that there was a ethnic killing of the House of Kings. So it's not Hausa don't really control Nigeria. It's a couple of Fulani sultans and emirs. Like they have 7 states. But it's not the Hausa don't run Nigeria. That's why they're part of the Sahel Alliance, and that's one of the major regions that they're fighting because there's a jihad, or not even a jihad, it's ethnic killings from Fulani going in Nigeria and it's going on in the Sahel. Nigeria is part of the Sahel, so it's the same ethnic groups, but Igbo people don't have an association. They don't talk to different governments and different nations. But that's why we've been calling these meetings for years. That we need an Igbo association to talk to these ethnic groups in West Africa. There's maybe 7 of them total, and there's no Igbo association that could talk to people and get the real story. The House of People they're the majority group in Niger Republic, and a lot of Igbo people living in Nigeria don't even know this. They don't talk to anybody. But those are the misconceptions that the Fulani are not the majority of Nigeria, but they run a lot of the Hausa media. And but it's a totally different story when you go to Niger Republic, and that's why you see them moving faster. So that started in 1804 before Nigeria was even conceived. There was a killing of the House of People where they had their voice and leadership robbed. So that's the difference between Nigeria and the Sahel Alliance. It's basically the Fulani kings and the Igbos don't have an association. It's mostly Yoruba and Fulani running the traditional associations. But that's from me talking to these different people in different countries. And I know for a fact that there's no Igbo association or organization talking to these communities. And they're like 40 million people. And and the Motsi people, and their group is 40, the Mabia group, that's 48 million people. The Mande people are 40 million people. Igbo is 50 million people. They don't talk to each other. And that's the problem with Nigeria. They don't talk, they don't have, there's no Igbo association to talk to other people. So that's what we're forming in these calls. There's an Igbo association that can get the real message, not just what they see in the Nigerian media that will lie to them. But the Igbo
But
association, yeah,
let's also look at the role that the United States play there. United States has carried out more military coups inside of Nigeria. Why? Because one of the first things the United States got Nigerian government to agree to is to allow the U.S. government to train their military. And when they trained their military, they recruited their officers to work for the CIA. I'm going to give you
Exactly.
a suggestion. I'll give you a suggestion, my brother. Google the name William Swing. Okay? I ran into that idiot in Haiti in 1995. William Swing, like a swing on a tree. All right. At that time, he was the ambassador, United States ambassador to Haiti. And as I was listening to him explain things to the delegation I was with, it became clear to me this guy worked for the CIA. So I put my hand up and I asked him, what is your history in the State Department? And you can Google his name and they will tell you the same thing I'm getting ready to tell you now. He was in Congo, Brazzaville, when they had a military coup. When Congo Brazzaville had a progressive government, this guy went to them as their ambassador from the United States. They had a coup. He leaves Congo Brazzaville, he goes to Liberia, and Liberia had a coup. He leaves Liberia, he goes to South Africa. And when he gets down to South Africa, that was right before the white regime gave up power to Nelson Mandela. And what he told the white regime to do was spend every penny in your national budget so when Mandela gets into office, he will have no money to pay the military or the police, which would have meant a bloodbath. That forced Mandela to have to negotiate with the international banks, in which they put all kinds of restrictions about what Mandela could not do once he became president. He leaves South Africa. He comes to Nigeria. That's when he killed Abacha. Okay, he leaves Nigeria, he goes to Haiti. That's when I ran into him. He went to Haiti in 94. I ran into him in 95. And in 95, I peeped his card and recognized this guy worked for the CIA. He leaves Haiti in 1998. He goes to the Congo. And what's going on in the Congo? An attempted military coup. But because Kabila got in touch with Zimbabwe, Namibia, and Angola, they sent their armed forces there. They put down the forces from Uganda, Rwanda, who was attempting to overthrow Kabila in the Congo. He leaves the Congo on January 20th. He retires from the State Department January 20th, 2001. Kabila was killed on January 16th in the Congo in 2001. Now, trust me, William Swing was not the only U.S. ambassador that went around Africa carrying out coups. One of the first things you look at in any of these governments is how many of these governments have their military trained either by France, Great Britain, or the United States. And when they bring them into their country to train them, that's when they bribe them and have them start working for their intelligence. And that's how this stuff is going on. It's not an accident.
This is, I think, 1940s. The Nnamdi Azikiwe was talking about the United States of Africa, and he said there was going to be an independent Igbo state, an independent Fulani state, Hausa state. That's 80 years ago. Now you see the Sahel is pushing it forward. We still have the Igbo states and the Biafra Eastern region, but what it is, you talk about what they've learned in Nigeria is that you can disintegrate. You could call to disintegrate the country, and that the West is going to support you. But really, it's the Sahel Alliance that's saying, "Hey, let's come together and meet. Let's restructure the whole continent." And when you look at the Sahel Alliance, the Niger Republic is Hausa land. So they're saying, if we if we come together, we'll take northern Nigeria. And if you see what happened in Nigeria when the Sahel Alliance was formed, the first thing that Tinubu did, who was a Yoruba president, he said, "Let's call for war and let's start killing everybody." And that's that's the propaganda machine. And then he had to call it off because the people in Niger are Hausa people. So Niger, if Niger was to disintegrate or to come together, whatever you want to call it, Nigeria would be absorbed. Northern Nigeria would join the Sahel, and then they'd have to deal with removing the kings that are not indigenous. But northern Nigeria, most of it is Hausa land. So that's why you can't really see any Pan-African organization or discussion in Nigeria, because really it's part of the Sahel. And this is one of the first. Yeah.
Also is that you got people who allow themselves to be played off by money, be played off against their own people. And the United States is a master in doing that. And until people are African first, and then other things second, they will play the game of divide and conquer of Africa. And that's what they've been doing for years. It's going after one ethnic group versus another ethnic group. And that's how they play them and fighting against each other and dividing the house. And when they divide the house, they rule over you.
Exactly. So if that's why I've been calling these meetings for years,
Exactly.
but now people are seeing that, wait, so what's going on in these countries? Now people in Nigeria never even knew about Niger Republic or that it's House of Land and that they want the same thing. Like, hey, let's have our own countries back. Let's create our own old countries and borders again. So Igbo land, I've invited Igbo land on the call, but they're fed propaganda daily and they're starved. People are hungry. So a lot of this message is you have to say it over and over for it to get through. But like,
Again, if you
yeah.
address the issue, if you address the people's basic needs, that's the number one thing. I mean, come on. How are you ready to fight carry out a fight when you're starving to death?
Mm-hmm.
How are you ready to carry out a fight if, in fact, you can't even deal with a simple thing as having proper diets, being able to feed your children, being able to educate your family? I mean, believe me, that's going to come first.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't do that, then, in fact,
Exactly.
people play the game of divide and conquer.
So that's what the Sahel, basically the Sahel Alliance is saying. Hey, let's create our own countries, new borders again. And they're looking at Nigeria, who could partner with them. They're looking at the Caribbean. They're looking at African Americans. They're looking at
Don't forget
Africa.
Ghana. Don't forget
They're
Ghana.
they're looking at Chad, Ghana. Yeah, everybody's related. So uh, the king of Ouagadougou, the capital of Ghana, not the king of Ouagadougou gets crowned in Ghana. But I think we need Nigeria as the giant of Africa to push and say, hey, these guys are looking at redrawing borders. Let's look at who's who. But Nigeria is really ran by, especially if you look at the traditional council, it's the Oni of Ife, is a Yoruba king, and Fulani Emir, who's basically a religious leader, but he's
Let's
part.
not forget the fact of the
Yeah.
role that U.S. imperialism plays in Nigeria.
No, I mean,
Okay,
it's
because
not.
why do you think Nigeria began to refuse to allow that African brother who started his refinery in Nigeria and first told him he could not get any oil from Nigeria to refine until people raised so much hell that the government had to back off of that. And the result
Exactly.
of that was to drop the price of gasoline and diesel inside of Nigeria because they didn't have to ship it up to bring it back down to Nigeria. You know, yet the government in the beginning was telling him he would not have any Nigerian oil to refine. We need to be clear about the role that Europe, United States, the NATO nations play in playing this game of divide and conquer inside of Africa today.
It's really
And why
deep.
they do it? Because they can rob you when they play a divided house. When they come after a divided house, they can rob you a lot easier. Why do you think in Europe, with all the different nationalities in Europe, they have NATO? They work as one body. And yet in Africa, they play the game of divide and conquer about all the different ethnic groups. There are many ethnic groups within inside of Europe. But they work together and working together for one purpose, that they now can exploit Africa, they can exploit South America, they can exploit Asia. And that's what they've been doing.
Well, I know in Nigeria we call it Wazobia, where we say it's three ethnic groups that dominate the discussion. But if I'm saying the Sahel Alliance is there, if anybody wants to join or work with them and Restart
Yeah,
Pan Africanism. I think the Sahel Alliance has removed a lot of excuses.
We're
Uh,
confident. The nation is willing to
we're
do it
confident.
well.
You what I think that is happening now. Yes, we see all of that, what has been happening that Brethren has said earlier on. But now is the time where you see what has happened in Burkina Faso and the Sahel state, the three Sahel state, that it has given the youths confidence within and across Africa to begins looking at what their government is doing. We still need to go in and invest. We still need to go in and build ways and means of trading. And as the Virgin said earlier on, raw material is coming out. All we have to do is learn and go in. Or if the raw material is coming out, it comes to us here who is from Africa in the diaspora. When we do what we're doing, we send back within. Because you know, say that the China man do. Them come out here and do all what them are doing, them send back money and care back money going to them country to build them economy. So we need to do things such ways and means. Yes, these European countries have disabled us in ways and means, but we need to use the opportunity which is there now. And we need to look out for those who are trained by the Western persons. And what they are doing, we don't try to just let them loose. Even if they are a part of governance at some point in time, we don't try to make them hold too much important offices. So it is up to us, because we can't just look on it and drop arms and say, well, they might do this and that. And we still have to put up our resistance, our fight. So as we look at it and see what is happening, let us find ways and means to come around. As you say again, NATO is there. That is what those ethnic group are European has formed. And it is what I said earlier to your brethren, I'm so confident that what we need to do is begin building our culture within our people out here in the Western Hemisphere and building alliances and organizations like those that now defend the African heritage so that across the world we can have someone speak on behalf of the African people worldwide out here in the diaspora and at home. Thank you.
exactly. And I don't know if the brother Chukwu could speak on that, but even before we invited the brother, we had a private conversation about the number of people, a number of groups that are 40 million plus in West Africa that like create mass movements that you always hear about them. So we count. I think we counted about 6 or 7. I don't know if I think 7 with the diaspora, because the diaspora has created, mass movement in Ghana. They've created the Liberia, Sierra Leone. They've had a part in Nigeria. The diaspora is part of West Africa as far as for hundreds of years now, going back and forth and creating mass movement. But it's only 7 groups. When it's not 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria, for example. A lot of them are just overlapping and related. And that's how you get numbers of 50 million and things like that. But it's about, at this point, the Sahel Alliance has most of the cultural, those giant movements in West Africa, those giant ethnic groups. They're in the Sahel Alliance, and Nigeria has a few more. So it's just about, you have to be part of the conversation if you're in Nigeria. So you always hear about the same ethnic groups fighting in the Sahel. It's Fulani Igbo, Fulani Yoruba, Fulani Masi in Burkina Faso, Fulani Hausa fighting. It's not. You don't hear about 250 ethnic groups fighting in the news. It's always the same ones. So that's all we're doing. We're calling a conference to stay in contact, and that's what it's only like 7 groups. So we talk about the West is so smart. Uh, Not really. It's just we have 7 groups that need to be on a conference call, or however many we can get, and it will spread to the other communities in Africa. I invited Unify Igbos now. They're working with Haiti and Jamaica and Barbados. That's uh, they're consistent, I think. So it's a lot of Igbo groups working with Caribbean states, and we know what's going on with the U.S. government blocking us and France and all that. But it's just you have to be on the calls and you have to be open to these discussions because that's how the Sahel line started. If you look, if Hausa is 70 million people, the Masi, the Mole Dogbone State, that's 50 million people. It's a lot of groups like that in West Africa that can just make a movement, but we have to be on the calls. We can't be, watching the social media all the time and TV all the time. We just have to find people who are serious and meet and invest. And Brother Starrett, I will follow up on the stock market thing and finance. And I'm open to any other discussion on finance. But I don't want this to make the call about me. But I'll help write down ideas as and execute them. But I'm also recruiting more people to help all the time.
And remember to send me to the UNIA Constitution document.
And that one actually says it's actually online, so it's been online for years. It's called Uganda Nigeria Imperial Administration. The government of Nigeria has known about the Sahel for years, and they also
Send information in the group. The name. The name of the.
I'll send
I can.
I'll send you in WhatsApp after the call. Whenever
Yeah,
anybody wants to work.
and also remember that we're looking to find persons who is tech savvy in with the social media areas and so forth to do, as you say, videos and such like with little poems or other things, cartoons,
Stock
and
market.
with the African language and so forth, so that we can begin re-educating our youth. They use the media to educate us. Let us use it to re-educate our youths, as we are saying.
I've seen somebody in USA do that. Who has the right mentality, but he's not on WhatsApp. But he's in Memphis, I think. I've seen him do that. He does music, but he doesn't know the language yet himself.
Well, we need persons who are savvy in those ways to begin decoding, or as you would say, give the meaning of the African language in English, so that person begins learning how to say it and so forth. Because some of the time we don't want to say it in the wrong way. That's why I asked that it's been done in cartoons.
Okay.
So that the pronunciation persons can get the right pronunciation as we go along. So it would be English and really whichever.
I will have to take a leave now. The Igbo nation, with a population of over 50 million people, we are truly committed to the United States of Africa. We are fully committed and dedicated to see it come to reality. That is what we represent. That is what we stand for. Our predecessor, Dr. Nnamdi has always preached that to us for a very long time. And we fully believe in the United States of Africa. We also had the message of Gaddafi while he was around, while he was alive, before these devils from the Western world came and killed him for preaching the same thing. So we're fully committed, we're fully dedicated towards the actualization of that very goal and that very dream of United States of Africa. But there are challenges indeed that we are facing down here in Nigeria. The discrimination and the pawns that the Western world are placed in the position of powers or the position of authorities or government offices for us here, who are bent at disrupting any positive move to see Africa rise. Anything positive that you want to put your hands in to make sure that Africa regains their true originality, their true power, and their true self, these idiots in the political offices make sure they stop at nothing to see it destabilized and destroyed.
I strongly
believe with time,
Brother Okoro, Brother Okora, I know you're a traditionalist. That's why I brought you here, because the thing that works is the traditional village meeting, the town union, or the courtyard meeting. Anything that's traditional as far as indigenous democracy, OHA, and then we just get work on security. And I think we go back maybe 7 years on and off talking, but we were talking to the Black Panthers in America, and they weren't communicating well. And then all of a sudden, you see Black Panthers in Yoruba land controlled by the governors. So those are the
Yeah.
security ideas that we've had for years. Make it traditional and take it out of politicians' hands. But you see what happened in Nigeria. They had a tribal security, but it's controlled by the politicians. And then we start hearing that
Yeah.
the politicians are killing the Igbo people with some Black Panthers that came out of nowhere. So it just has
Could
to
you
be
believe, could you
Igbo land has
believe
to be in
in Benue
contact.
State?
We're going to
Could you
get
believe in
security.
Benue State that 3 days ago, 3 days ago to 4 days ago, over 200 people were burnt alive.
Oh,
Over 200 people in Benue State. That's a state before Enugu. Enugu and Benue are parts of the Igbo nation that we're speaking about. Over 200 people, both women and children, were burnt alive while they were asleep.
oh my God.
By the way. And even today, this very morning, over 11 people were killed in Enugu by the same Fulanese. These are the things I'm trying to bring out here. I don't know the kind of cannibals or whatever they sent into Africa. These are not the Fulanese we know, the indigenous African Fulanese we know. These ones, according to my research, they say some of them came from Spain. I don't know where they come from.
I
Now
don't
in
know
Africa,
Arab.
we now have the white Fulanese. We now have the white Fulanese, and we now have the black Fulanese. The black Fulanese being the indigenous, and the white Fulanese, we don't know where they come from. They are the ones slaughtering people on daily basis. Over 200 people just 3 days ago in Benue State.
Sudan
And the
is
president is saying nothing about it.
yeah,
And we're not
Sudan is
hearing
suing.
about all these things.
Sudan is suing the Arab Emirates, saying that they're creating genocide with way more than thousands of people getting killed in Sudan. So that's what they're trying to
Just
bring to
imagine.
that's the Sahel too. They're trying to bring Sudan all the way to West Africa. What's going on in Sudan? They're trying to spread it all
Wow.
around.
Man. Because we
Yeah.
are not knowing these things, you know. Yeah, we're not
It's
knowing
really
these
terrible.
things. Whoa, brother.
It's because
Man.
the media, the government in Nigeria, they more like prescribed all these activities that they are no longer reported on the national televisions. You can't see the newscasters or the broadcasters coming to the scenes of these things to make videos of them and report them. No, they just prescribe them. They don't want anybody to know.
But
Thank
then
God to this modern social media, Facebook and all that, we're able to gather all these footage. We're able to go to these things, record them and post them on Facebook, Twitter and all that. Aside that,
Yeah.
nobody will know.
Starred and Okechukwu, look at this, because Jamaica is no Igbo. So many people in Igbo land were kidnapped during slavery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
now you look at the
We know we
Caribbean.
have,
Now
we
you
know
look
we
at
do
the
have brothers
Caribbean.
in Jamaica, Cuba and Caribbeans. Yeah, we know. We do have brothers over there.
So
And we are
now
working with them seriously.
this is what scares a lot of what they call white supremacists. Now we have Igbo people through the Caribbean in the United Nations. We don't even need the Nigerian presidency. We don't need the U.S. presidency. If we just talk to people like Starret or Caribbean people with their own, if we build up the Caribbean and we say, hey, we want to run the Igbo government, the village government, we want the grassroots to speak. We don't want these politicians. If we just keep
As
talking, we're
as
gonna.
we've been saying, for some time, Africa await its creators, meaning that it's diaspora persons. We really need to organize ourselves out here, and when we're returning home, it's not just single-handedly, but in force,
So, brother,
so that we can make a difference.
Chukwu, I don't know where you live, but is it possible that you can get your community to partner with communities in the Caribbean, like neighborhood, like teach things like just things that keep them in, like the calendar or the correct pronunciation, because that keeps people coming back. But the political thing, these are ideas that the Caribbean people came up with, African Americans came up with, like community police, indigenous police. We have the same ideas, especially Marcus Garvey, but it's just we have to keep in
That's
communication.
that's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. I can have people do that. I got contacts within my own locality, so that's not a problem at all. We can organize that.
Yeah, so like I don't know, like I'm from Mbaise, Umulolo on my mom's side, Umueze from my dad's
I
side,
got
but
contacts I got contacts in Lolo.
yeah,
Facts, every nooks and crannies of Anugo, I have contacts
yeah.
within
So
those
it's like,
areas. That's not a problem at all.
so for us, we need to sign. We call it autonomous community. We need to sign documents saying we adopt this community as our brother. Saint, I don't know, brother Starret, where you're at, but let's say the local government is Saint Parish or Saint Catherine's. We adopt this a community population, and we keep a record of who we're working with, but it's village to village type thing. So that's just enough to because Igbo land is so big, we start making money transfers and investments, small investments, and it starts becoming published. That's what the West doesn't want. That's what the government doesn't want. But that's how you create the mass movement, because everybody's getting Sahel. You know, we have a group with Sudan and Chad. As a matter of fact, Kenem Bornu, that has the security issue too. They're part of Chad and Sudan, and that we just need Ethiopia. We probably have most of East Africa, Uganda. We talked to them for years. They design our emblems, and they're rooting for us. The East African Federation rooting for us. I think Museveni even mentioned us as the origin of his tribe. So they're all rooting for us to we just gotta stay connected. I think before the Sahel Alliance, people didn't even know this was possible, that you could uh, have this kind of energy. But it's
Yeah, you see, one of the things that, as a Brethren said earlier on, using the resources there. I have been looking into going to processing of farm stuff here in Jamaica and even medicinal herb. I do have my daughter who is going to university at the moment and she's studying food science and nutrition. So I am looking to put a business in place of processing and things so as to make sure she have something to work with when she leave there. She don't have to go and work for other persons. So these are some of the ways and means how we are trying to see how best we can make sure our people are not tied down by the system in working for them, where they have to have a 9 to 5 and can't have time to do any type of community type work or
Yeah, we're
work,
gonna.
working for the development of Africa because them tied up.
Yeah,
We don't intend to make that
I,
happen.
I I have to go soon. I don't know if you guys all want to discuss after I leave, but I don't know. I have to go right now. But there's also I want to encourage everybody
I'm
to
going
stay
off. I'm
connected.
going off now. I have
Um,
another meeting to attend with the Igbo National Union.
okay, Mazi.
So I'll
All
be
right.
leaving you guys now.
All right.
Okay then.
Our next
Okay.
call will be Africa call,
Yeah,
I
bye.
think. Bye, Udo.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, goodbye.
Okay, our next call will probably be the Africa call, just to give them energy and touch bases with them, or try to. There's different nationalities in that forum. Um, I know they're on a different time scale, and they have a lot. I don't know. It's always fun to touch bases with Africa. uh, the people that are working together, I think, is very strategic and good. Um, brother Starret, would you be able to, I don't know, find connections to the AME Church in Jamaica as far as people who are like minded? Because the AME Church connects to USA and different parts of Africa that are troubled or strategic, Zambia, Zimbabwe. different parts of the Congo. Brother Paul Pumphrey is connected to Congo. But the AME Church was one of the best self-government mechanisms that African Americans created, and it's all over the world.
No, do you have a contact for anyone out there?
In
I
Jamaica,
don't really.
in Jamaica, no, but I know in Jacksonville, and actually today is the anniversary. Uh, uh, Someone came into one of the churches and assassinated a lot of people. But I'm in that part of the country where African Americans were plotting to overthrow the slave master and sail to the Caribbean. So they've been going back and forth.
What do the acronym stand for?
That one happened in Charleston, South Carolina. The Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida coastal. They have coastal islands that basically they were governing themselves and going in Barbados. Some people were said to go to Haiti. Some people were said to go Bahamas. Andrew Jackson, he blew up a town over here that was said to be going to Haiti. But there's a strong relationship to Barbados, Trinidad, Bahamas.
I'm just asking you, what does the acronym of the church mean? What does the acronym?
Oh, it was. Let's be straightforward. A white man came and he killed the black people who were
No. You said like AM. What does that acronym stand for?
Stanford.
Yeah. What's that acronym stand for? You say it's a church.
No,
What's the
it's a
acronym stand for?
African Methodist Episcopal
Okay, African Methodist Episcopal. Yeah.
AME Church. It was just a
Yeah.
question because they have Zimbabwe. I think that's a good connection to have if you could get them to see through religion towards African centeredness. It's an African Underground Railroad. It's been there for years, but it's activated over here. Today's one of the anniversaries. But it's in Jamaica, it's in Barbados, it's in Nigeria has some, but there's different branches. AME versus AME Zion. Zimbabwe has it, and Zimbabwe is strategic. So I want everybody to touch bases with Zimbabwe. I don't know if brother. This is the thing. Jamaica's never been considered a headquarters of any Caribbean institution because I think because of neocolonialism and maybe pettiness. And but now that Africa is uniting, it makes sense. I know Dr. Ericana said Jamaica Akampong was the headquarters years ago, but then she got fired from her AU position. They said that wasn't authorized, I think. So, but Jamaica makes more sense than Guyana as far as the black population, 90% versus 40%, I think, in Guyana. But a lot of that stuff is by design. So we're looking at Jamaica, Haiti, Barbados, and what was the Grenada, of course, which is they've already put their necks on the line, and they have the Maroon Islands in Grenada. So it's African living type thing, autonomy villages, and so it's set in stone. And I position myself here in the Jacksonville. I put a lot of the same messages out, so it's like sometimes that's a little bit of a protection from what's happened in the past. But sometimes if you mix up your message, uh, it becomes dangerous. So I've been consistent over this 7 years, and I'm going to share the documents. I'm getting a little bit tired because I have to work at midnight and I have to get traveling soon. But I'm going to remember what was said. I'm going to send the documents right after we end, if there's anything else. But because Brother Paul Pumphrey, he's connected to Congo, he's connected to Haiti. There's a lot he didn't get to say, but as a regional leader or someone, as if we're doing this regional thing, he's one of the people to contact. I think, and Brother Boatwright. So I think we can meet in other regions, and we could always come back here to talk to them. That's my opinion. But we made some verbal agreements as far as looking at the stock market, sending the documents. They're raw form PDF files, but I'm glad that we talked to some more Igbo people because they haven't been out of the Pan African movement for decades, decades.
Yeah, man, I'm glad for the forum that is happening here because I'm getting to link more and more with my brothers of the same, of the like mind, and it is something I've been searching for some time.
Yeah, it's I think it was African American, African Caribbean, and South American Africans. They're all over 40 million people at least. And then you look at the Yoruba and Akan, they're related. So maybe it's around 75 to 100 million people of those that related ethnic group, which called Oduduwa. That's hard to get them on one page as far as the Sahel, and because they're spread across different countries and there's competition. But that's the Oduduwa, the Yoruba, and Akan, and the related ethnic groups. That's like 70, 80 million people, or maybe even more. Definitely more. So it's Oduduwa, it's Hausa, it's Fulani or Fulbe, it's the Mande, aka Mali Empire. There's the Mole Dogbone State, which is Namibia speakers. That's another 40 million. Who else? Yeah, it's the Igbo. I think that's it. As far as West Africa, people over 40 million. Then you also have Kinem Bornu that's spread over like 6 countries. Um, then you have who else? The Oromo people in East Africa, the Somali people of East Africa, Ethiopia in general is a federation. So it's and then you have the Bantu people that cover the rest of the African continent, and the Khoisan, of course, are historically. But it's I was talking about the geography as far as people who cover the most terrain, and like the Sahel, who cover the Sahel easiest. Ethiopia is there, Sudan and Chad. There's ties there from Nigeria and Niger. So it's something. We'll have that call eventually or next. But I don't know if the brother Paul Pumphrey, he's been silent, but we talked for on and off again for a couple of years. But I think now we have it nailed where we can have regular calls regionally. So I don't know. I don't. We've been speak. I speak for a long time, but I didn't want to. Hope I didn't offend anybody. But if Brother Paul wants to speak or Brother Starret want to continue, but I was looking at closing out. But I don't know. The Brother
Yeah, man,
Paul.
I'm okay. I'm okay at the moment. I close out too.
Okay.
But
I'm okay. God bless. Is Brother Paul, are you there? I don't know if he's preoccupied. Might be preoccupied. Hope he's all right. All right. We'll close out. Let me